Nice pop-up, John.
Well, thank you.
Nice pop-up with the popcorn.
Look at the branding, huh?
Yes, I do like the branding.
We're on FilmsGoneWild.com. My name is John Wildman, the editor-in-chief of Films Gone Wild, and we're doing a series of interviews out of Dances with Films, Los Angeles, in the heart of Hollywood, the Chinese theater. And on this one segment, we're going to talk about a very nice film. It's called Rescue. DJ, introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going? I'm DJ Hale. I am the writer, director, producer, lead actor, editor of Rescued, and probably a couple more hats that.
Did craft services, you're a gaffer, you're holding the boom when you weren't in the scene.
Location
but you're in every scene, so how did you do that? I don't know. Okay, our audience has not seen Rescued as yet. Introduce us to the film.
Yeah, so it's just it's a tale of compassion and empathy. You know, it's centered on a homeless man who ends up taking in this stray dog that saves his life. And that bond basically motivates him to get back on his feet and get him and the dog off the streets, you know, just change his life. It shows that everybody deserves a second chance. It doesn't really matter how far down the abyss of life, you know, that you fall. It's possible to climb out, you know, as long as you have that spark, whatever that spark may be, a person, an animal, something that brings life into you. You know, it's important. You know, and to me, it reflects just the indomitable human spirit. You know, and just centered on compassion.
Well, yeah, and what I think is really supremely admirable about the film is that you stay away from a lot of clichés. You really do. You steer clear of a lot of things that because that literal rags to redemption story. And, you know, a lot of people have done variations on that theme, and oftentimes, you know, because you know we have that Robert McKee thing drilled into us to raise the stakes, and you know, and establish this by the first act, and do this and what have you, and which of course we want to do because you know if we don't, then we're meandering around, and our audience gets bored and they flatline on us and they tune us out. But there's also a real world thing of like not everything is not all of life is lived in a 3-act structure, right? And you know, and not that you deviate from that, but you do keep a low-key reality to it. And I would love for you to talk because here's the thing: tonality is hard as hell for you know any filmmaker, but when you're wearing all the goddamn hats that you're wearing in this film, keeping that tonality, making sure I'm keeping an eye on my performance, I'm also keeping an eye on the big picture, and I'm also keeping an eye on the fact that we can pay everybody, right? Talk about how you manage that shit.
Oh man, that's a loaded question. First off, authenticity is very important to me. I think for me as a storyteller, not just with Rescue, but in the other scripts that I've got written, I am a big proponent of just emphasizing the human condition. You know, the fact that we are all imperfect beings. You know, the same person that's capable of acts of generosity and chivalry and all of these things can also do, you know, somewhat distasteful things, right? Can lead with can have jealous tendencies, can have selfish desires, this and that. You know, I think that it's important to show that, you know, and show it in the medium of film. You know, where, like you said, for me personally, and this isn't a knock to any, you know, filmmakers or movies, you know, because sometimes we need that. Sometimes it's cool to sit down and shut your brain off and just ingest what's being, you know, given to you. But for me personally, I'm not a fan of that. I like to see things that resemble like humanity. You know what I mean? And with Rescued in particular, I wanted to show like an accurate, honest portrayal of what it is like to be homeless. You know, we're not going to have the Hollywood spin on it. He's not going to be the victim. You know, this isn't the government failing failing or some sort of racial thing. Like it's nothing like that. This is a guy that just he made mistakes and ended up in this.
No, exactly, and that's the thing. You have a couple instances where in a different film, the counterpart to your character would be a wife, or be the owner of a business, whatever, could be in the villain role. could be, could be in that cut and dried thing. Well, if it wasn't that for that person, he'd be fine, right? But that's not what happens. Because oftentimes that's not how it works in real life, and the additional aspect that of showing, again, it's like, well, the temptation, drugs led them down that path, or or a gambling addiction led them down that path, or or a terrible accident that they never recover from. And you go, well, it's not. Again, it's not always a melodramatic big thing. Oftentimes it is, as in this character, literally an inability to accept a path forward because they have their own obstacles in their head they have to do. And I think you do that very well. But how tough was that as the filmmaker, especially in the editing bay, and those Robert McKee things start hitting you, and you're going, did I hit this hard enough?
Yeah.
Are people going to do it? So talk about the confidence in sticking with your vision.
Yeah, you have to have supreme confidence, especially going in as the writer-director that's hard enough, right? Because now you're the boss, everybody understands, you're the captain of the ship. The lead actor as well. If you aren't confident in your abilities as a performer, there's no way you can do this, right? Like, I had to know when I'm on set and it's time to lock in for Tyler. First of all, I'm not going to get the amount of time that all my other actors have to prepare, where they're in makeup and then they're just chilling until it's their time. I'm on go the moment I step forward. So when the DP tells me, hey, all right, it's lit, it's ready to go, no matter what, if I can only take 2-3 minutes to lock into Tyler, that's what I got to do, and if you aren't fully convinced that you can do that and you have that belief in your abilities, it's impossible. So to me, it was just making sure that I was ready. I did a lot of prep work for this character, a lot. I mean, just from a physical standpoint. I mean, you see it in the trailer how I look. None of that wasn't a wig. That wasn't. I spent 8-9 months getting into this character, losing all the weight, not cutting my fingernails way out to here, no haircuts, looking absolutely insane. Spent an entire day and night on the streets, man. Left my house with no keys, no phone, no nothing, just $4 cash, and figured how I can make that work. And I found out very quickly you can't, because as expensive as it is for us, it's even more expensive to them. I'll never forget. I took that $4 and I had this plan. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into 7-Eleven. I'm gonna be able to buy, I should be able to get a beer. I should be able to get a candy bars, some little snack or whatever, and then maybe 2 2 scratchers. I had this in my head. I go, and first thing I notice is all the candy and stuff like that. We're talking $2.50, $3. I open the beer thing. Everything's $3, $4, $5, and I'm like, holy no! I can't do. What am I gonna do?
DJ, did you think you were in the 50s? Get yourself a penny candy, my boy.
Right? And it's funny now, but it was such a reality check, man, because you don't think of these things. And what it made me also realize was when that person does come up to you and they ask for spare change and you give them whatever, the nickels and dimes and stuff like that, that is nothing.
Yeah.
That is literally nothing when the cheapest little snack that they can get is gonna run them $2 and some change, So it was an eye-opening thing that I knew that I had to do, not only to direct this film and have that complete vision of showing the authenticity and how this is, but as the actor as well. You can't play this properly unless you get just a little spoonful of what this could be like, when you're hungry and you've got no money. It's time to go to sleep and you don't even know where the hell you are. You don't know what time it is. It's cold. All of these things. It was an experience.
The final question is, we all know the rule. You don't work with children, you don't work with animals. You apparently said, well, I don't care. You didn't get the note. Maybe the email went to your spam.
Didn't get the memo.
Right. And so you're working with the dog, and we always talk about casting with people and chemistry and whatever. But this is one where you go, if you get a border collie, you're fucked as a director and producer because that thing is all over the map, right? If you get a husky, that thing is going to be climbing the walls or whatever. So you better get a dog that has the right personality, a dog that can do it. And this dog is gorgeous, but it is so perfect because there's kind of a zen aspect.
Well, first off, that was my mom's dog. His name is Aries, and he unfortunately passed away earlier this year.
Yes, yeah, and that crushed me when I saw that. Yes.
Fun fact with Aries, I never in a million years would I have ever thought we would do something like this, or we would develop this sort of bond, or just anything like that. He was my mom's dog, and I kind of tolerated him at first. I love animals, and but he just, our relationship was kind of shaky. I remember calling up my mom before that, when we were trying to figure out like the dog aspect, and you got to remember this was a shoestring budget film. I mean, our shooting budget was like somewhere between $20,000-$30,000. We penny pinching, I started, calling up and emailing about actor dogs and stuff, and they sent back those quotes, and I was like, oh wow. Yeah. I didn't know we were looking for Leonardo DiCaprio, like, oh my gosh. So I had to pivot really quickly, and it was like, well damn, there's no way we can't do this film without a dog, right? So like, what are we gonna do? Like, I put out ads, I did all kinds of things, and finally it just hit me, like, what about Aries? What about Aries? And I remember calling my mom and asking her for her blessing to do that, and the silence, and she was just like, are you sure? Going back to our relationship, this wasn't exactly my dog, this was her dog, and
so your mom is going, well, Aries will do it for scale plus 10, and
well, yeah, royalties, all merchandise, all of it, just run it up. But I had to assure her that, like, listen, regardless of what this relationship is, I promise you, like, this is going to be something beautiful. Like, I promise you, I see it. I see you can trust me. Like, we're gonna do it. And she gave me that blessing. And I remember our first day. And I knew that I was going to have to build a lot of his character in the editing room. I knew that. But with Aries, once me and the cinematographer Keelan, and also Mason, who filled in when Keelan couldn't, once we understood Aries' shooting habits, it became easier to kind of like see, but we definitely had to, it was very impromptu, and like, it's funny because these are things that nobody really knows. So I love talking about these things because this is a very like solitary sort of thing that we do, like as filmmakers, especially like when you're editing and all these things. Like, I'm just alone, just doing all the stuff, so it's like nobody really knows. It's like we could have in one scene, it's going so beautiful for 3 takes, and then on that 4th one, Aries decides, I'm not going to stand anymore, I'm just going to lay down. And then he doesn't get back up. And now it's like, oh, shoot, okay, well, and now every other take after that, he's got to be sitting down. And now when I'm editing, once it gets to that point, it's like, oh, great, now I got to mix and match.
Let's stop for a moment, okay? I think Aries was just giving you options, all right?
You're right. It's so short-sighted of me.
He was giving you choices in the editing room, DJ.
That's what it was. And I can't thank him enough because he gave a lot. He gave a lot to work with, you know what I'm saying? So.
Well, listen, again, I think, we talk about oftentimes when you're doing a drama, like Rescue, you go, did you earn it? Like the ending, did you earn it? Or are you just trusting that audiences are trained to go along and you go, here's where we applaud, or here's where we laugh because we've been trained to do so, or did you seriously earn it? And I think you honestly did. So
that means a lot.
Again, the film is Rescued. Congratulations.